G'day, it's fugitive Australian journalist Shane Dowling from the website kangaroocourtofaustralia.com. Now this video is about the estimated $6 billion that has been ripped off from the National Disability Insurance Scheme, the NDIS. Now there was a story on 60 Minutes last Sunday, the 14th of August 2022, where Mick Phelan, who's the CEO of the Australian Criminal Intelligence Commission, put those figures. He broadcast them publicly. Somewhere between 15 to 20% is his estimate. That's been ripped off. It's a $30 billion scheme. Estimate is up to $6 billion. Now, why hasn't a public inquiry been held about that or called for? Bill Shorten is a minister for the NDIS. He was caught ducking and weaving, and he's doing absolutely nothing about it at this point. And I'm going to show you a part of the video because there's no more powerful evidence than something that comes from the horse's mouth, in this case Bill Shorten's mouth. He says he was aware of the fraud going on when he was in opposition. He warned the government, he says. Well, if he's warned the government when he was in opposition, why hasn't he done anything to date? He's been in power 3 months. He should have had a plan before he came to power to do something about it. Why hasn't he done anything? Well, Bill Shorten is well known to be corrupt as. He's a Labor Party's version of Angus Taylor. He's been running rorts and scams for years. I've been reporting about Bill Shorten since at least 2012. Reported about him when he became leader in 2013 of the Labor Party, when he was in opposition during the Royal Commission into the trade unions, where he was caught ripping off workers left, right and centre, allegedly taking bribes, etc. And when he went to election in 2016, 2019, he's a total failure. He's a fraudster and he's a scammer. Now, that's gone to air, saying there's up to $6 billion being stolen. So let's have a listen to Mick Phelan and Nick McKenzie, who's a journalist.
We all know some truly awful people walk among us, but the title of most despicable must surely go to members of organised crime networks who've been targeting vulnerable Australians in order to rip off the National Disability Insurance Scheme. The NDIS is supposed to be a lifeline to protect and support the disabled and their families. Billions of dollars have been poured into making it work. But all that money has proved an irresistible magnet for criminals. Thankfully, though, one of Australia's most senior crime fighters has now promised to stop the crooks and end the big steal. You've probably never heard of him. And as one of the most powerful and secretive police chiefs in the country, that's just how he likes it. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure.
But Michael Phelan, boss of the Australian Criminal Intelligence Commission, is coming out of the shadows because he's furious about the way serious organised criminals are making millions by rorting the National Disability Insurance Scheme.
I look at some of the material that has come across my desk, all the intelligence is available to me, and it just sickens you. So you've got to wonder how far down on the scumbag scale you get before you start ripping off our most vulnerable people. And it's pretty easy for us to get passionate about this, and we all should.
Now, you heard Mick Phelan say, how far down the scumbag scale do you need to be before you start ripping off the most vulnerable? Well, enter Bill Shorten in his crime gang, Andrew Landieu, David Asmar, Diana Asmar. They're fraudsters and thieves. They have no morals or ethics. Now, I'm not going to get too much into that. Because I want to focus on what Bill Shorten said, and the fact that he said he was aware of the fraud when he was in opposition. He warned the government. Well, what's he done in the last 3 months? Why didn't he set up an inquiry as soon as he got into government? Up to $6 billion stolen. Let's have a listen to what Bill Shorten said.
Why is the scheme so open to rorting?
It shouldn't be. But I guess there's an age-old issue. When the government hands out money, there'll always be opportunists and crooks who'll try and siphon some of that off.
Bill Shorten is the minister responsible for the scheme. And just months into his portfolio, he too acknowledges fraud is out of control. Isn't Labor somewhat to blame? The NDIS is Labor's baby. You designed the scheme, and now you say it's very, very flawed.
It's not as if Labor have been the co-conveners of the NDIS over the last 9 years. As opposition spokesperson, I warned previous ministers, previous coalition ministers, you're not cracking down on fraud hard enough.
When an organised crime figure rorts the NDIS, who pays the price?
This is not a victimless crime. This isn't just shuffling money in some sort of anonymous white-collar scam. The people who pay the price are our most vulnerable. They're people who need support 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the rest of their lives.
What is your fear in respect of the real scale of NDIS rorting?
We think that it could be anywhere up to 15 to 20%.
Up to 15 to 20% of the entire scheme?
Could well be. That's right.
It's talking about many billions of dollars.
We're talking about many billions of dollars.
Bill Shorten wants to know too.
It's a $64 million question, isn't it? I mean, I know people don't want to hear about Labor versus Liberal, and I get that. We're now in, and it's up to us to fix up the mess. But I have to say, part of me is just mystified. The old government, they never saw a security issue.
It's easy to kick the last government. How will you reform and improve the system?
Well, first of all, you've got to admit there's a problem to deal with a problem. And I think there is a problem. I think there is a problem where spivs and charlatans, maybe even worse, serious organised crime, are interfering with taxpayer money, which is meant to go to the most vulnerable. So I think there are ways to reform the scheme. I think we've got to get the tax office talking to the disability agency, talking to police. At the end of the day, if there's criminal behaviour, we need the full resources of the police to focus on this.
Now, you heard what Bill Shorten said on 60 Minutes last Sunday. He's ducking and weaving and saying, we should go to the police, we need to communicate with this department and that department. Well, why didn't he already implement it, given he's been in power 3 months, given that he already knew the fraud was going on? Now, the NDIS questions were put to them and they say, we haven't heard of this 15 to 20% fraud going on. Our estimates is something like 3% to 6%. Well, at 3%, it's $900 billion annual fraud. At 6%, it's $1.8 billion. If a government department is getting ripped off $1.8 billion or even $900 million a year, wouldn't you call an inquiry? But Mick Phelan from the Australian Criminal Intelligence Commission estimates it something around 15 to 20%, which takes it somewhere up to $6 billion. 15%, $4.5 billion. These are massive figures, massive fraud. Why isn't there a public inquiry? Why isn't Bill Shorten calling a public inquiry? Because his crime gang, without a doubt, would be in there, running their own scams, ripping off the NDIS themselves. So that's why they're not calling for any sort of inquiry. That's the only inference you can draw. I'll be publishing an article on the 21st, Sunday the 21st of August 2022, and I'll have a lot of links on a lot of Bill Shorten's background, his fraud when he was involved in the unions, National Secretary for the Australian Workers Union. He was a Victorian Secretary as well. A lot of allegations of corruption made against Bill Shorten, plenty of evidence from the workers themselves getting ripped off after Bill Shorten negotiated a so-called better package for them, etc. Allegations to where Bill Shorten was bribed. Branch stackers saying they made Bill Shorten, etc. Now, I won't get into that too much in this video because I want you to focus on what Bill Shorten said. Like I said, the best evidence of what comes straight from the horse's mouth, in this case Bill Shorten, saying that he knew fraud was going on when he was in opposition. He warned the government, and when he got to power, what did he do? Absolutely nothing. He's done nothing to date. And when the questions were put to him on 60 Minutes, he's there ducking and weaving. Now, as regular viewers know, I've set up a Patreon account. It's currently sitting at 59 supporters with $453 pledged per month. Moving forward, that's going to ultimately need to become my main source of income so I can continue as an independent journalist. Almost all independent journalists struggle. And so I think this would be a good test if I can grow that to where it needs to be as a main source of income. I've set it down as a target, 1,000 patrons. And I think if moving forward, as everyone knows, we need more independent journalists. If I can get that up to that 1,000 patrons, I'll be able to perform my role as an independent journalist long term. And I think it's a good test to see if others can do it as well. If I can do it, well, that'll help motivate other people to become independent journalists. So please hit that button. It'll be in the description box below the video on YouTube and also on my website, Kangaroo Court of Australia. And please support. It starts off as low as $3 a month, which most people can afford. Thank you for your time and have a good day.